Good morning. And welcome. I am Annie Simpson, a member of the board at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Reston. Whether you are on Zoom or here in the sanctuary, we are so glad that you're here with us this morning. No matter how old you are, how young you are, whether you are on your spiritual journey, however you identify, and whomever you love, please know that you are welcome here. I only have 4 announcements today. I think this is a record low. First, Julia Norgard wishes to thank all participants in last night's Scandinavian dinner, especially those who cleaned up. Please consider joining them next year. UUCR is now starting an effort to replace the expired long-range plan. We actually have 2 people who have stepped up, but we're looking for more. Please, we're seeking participants who are young, old, and in between. The effort will begin in early January, and if you are interested, please see Dave Sparrow. Is he here I can't remember. Dave, are you here? You can email him. Bev Boomerang is another person that is helping out. We will be forming Soul Matters small groups in 2025. If you're interested in developing deeper connections with congregants while delving into our monthly themes of service, worship, please indicate interest on the form in the East Foyer after the service. Also, you can sign up online. After the service today, help us prepare the sanctuary for the holidays and do a make it and take it craft, or decorate cookies, and or do gingerbread making. Please remember, all ages are welcome. And before I go into the centering for worship, I'd like to say one more thing, and this is from me. Would everybody turn around and smile and wave? We have people in line, and they'd like to see your faces. Is that right back there? So, say hi. Thank you. Okay, I can't see, so. All right. Now, please let us center ourselves for worship. Take some deep breaths with me. And as I've said before, I'm not real good at this, so excuse my noise. So let's enter into our time of worship together as we enjoy this morning's prelude.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Reverend Aileen Fitzke, and it is my honor to serve this congregation as its minister. Our opening words this morning are by Reverend Rebecca Ann Parker, A Winter Blessing. In the shadowed quiet of a winter's night, earth speaks softly of her longing. Because the wild places are in tears, come, she cries, kneel down here on the frosty grass and feel the prayer buried in the ground. Bend your ear to my heart and listen hard. Love this world, she whispers. Distill peace from the snow and water the cities with mercy. Weave wonder from the forest and clothe grief with beauty. Rest in the rhythm of the turning year. Trace the bending arc, rounding the curve toward justice. And vow anew to do no harm. The winter trees stand watch, haloed in the last gleams of the slanting sun. Glory sings here, heaven echoes the call. Repeat the sounding joy, make your life an answer. Bow, praise, rise.
Good morning. Our opening hymn today is number 226, People Look East. So please rise in body or spirit and join us. People look east, the time is near of the crowning of the year. Make your house fair as you are able. Trim the hearth and set the table. People look east and sing today. Love the guest is on the way. Furrows be glad, the earth is bare. One more seed is planted there. Give up your strength, the seed to nourish, that in course the flower may flourish. People look east and sing today. Love the rose is on the way. Stars keep the watch when night is dim. One more night the pole shall brim, shining beyond the frosty weather, bright as sun and moon together. People look east and sing today. Love the star is on the way.
For the chalice lighting, may this light guide us, by La Karen Ola Oya. We light this chalice here in the darkness of winter as we wait. This temporary space is one filled with prayers to be answered, love to be given and received, miracles to be witnessed. May this light guide us until the light of the sun returns again.
Here at UUCR, we have a cherished tradition of singing our covenant together every Sunday. Love is the spirit of this church. So the words will be on the screen, and if you are at home on Zoom, we hope you will sing along. And if you are here today for the very first time, we invite you to accept this song as our blessing to you. And we will remain seated while we sing our covenant.
Good morning. Now is the time for all ages, so anyone who is feeling young of body or young of spirit is welcome to come forward now. And welcome all. Our story today is by April Rosario. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between rolling hills and sparkling river, there lived a young girl named Miriam. The village had seen its share of troubles, but the darkest days had just come. A foreign ruler sought to extinguish or do away with the light of the villagers' traditions and customs. They were being told that they couldn't do what they wanted to do, and many families hid their customs, fearing that they would be punished. But Miriam's family held tightly to their beliefs, especially in the winter when the nights were the longest. As the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah approached, Miriam felt a flicker of hope. Each night, her grandmother would light an additional candle on the menorah, like the silver one we have on the table up here. And she would explain the meaning, saying, "These candles remind us of the miracle that happened long ago when a small band of Maccabees reclaimed their temple and found a tiny little jar of oil that miraculously lasted for 8 days. This teaches us that even in the darkest of times, hope can shine through. One evening, as they lit the candles together, Miriam noticed a group of children with their faces pressed against the window, curious. She felt a surge of courage and decided to invite them in. "Come in," she said, "join us," as her heart pounded. With hesitation, the children stepped into the house and into the glow of the menorah. Her grandmother welcomed them in and shared the story of Hanukkah, talking about how the Maccabees fought for their freedom and how hope can emerge from despair. The children listened with wide eyes, and they were so inspired, they asked if they could join in the celebrations. From that day on, the small group gathered together, and they lit the candles of the menorah, they sang songs, and they played dreidel. At night, their laughter filled the room, and the flickering flames cast away the shadows of doubt and fear. As the final night of Hanukkah arrived, Miriam felt a deep sense of joy. They lit all 8 candles, and the room glowed with warmth and light. The children's voices rang in songs of freedom and hope. And in that moment, Miriam realized that Hanukkah wasn't just a celebration. It was a reminder that even the smallest act of courage could ignite a flame in the hearts of everyone. Years later, the village thrived. They were doing well. Families could openly celebrate their beliefs and traditions, and during Hanukkah, menorahs shone in every window. The light they had kindled in those dark and troubled years became a beacon of hope, a symbol of resilience in the face of darkness. Miriam, now a young woman, looked back at those nights with gratitude. The story of the Maccabees had taken on new meaning for her. She understood that hope isn't just a little flicker. It's a fire that can spread, illuminating the lives of others. And so, every year at Hanukkah, the villagers would gather together, light the candles, sing the songs, and share the message of hope that had transformed their lives. The spirit of the holiday was alive in their hearts, a reminder that even in the toughest of times, the light of hope can guide our way. And may we too remember that there is always room for hope. And today we'll be exploring more about that here upstairs and with the children and anyone in 12th grade or younger who would like to join them. We'll now sing them out with Go With Joy.
Now is the time in our service when we share our joys and concerns so that no one ever has to hold them alone. If you are here joining us remotely this morning, you may wish to light a real or virtual candle wherever you are as members of the in-person congregation place their stones in the water here in the sanctuary. If those of you at home would like to share what is on your heart today in the congregational chat on the screen, please write to all attendees, and please remember that what you share will be public. Those at home may then read others' joys and concerns shared in the chat, and then enter into their own time of reflection and prayer. As those of us in the sanctuary come forward and put the stones in the water for your joys and sorrows. us be one in prayer and meditation. Spirit of life and love that so faithfully animates our creation, we are grateful for this community that is with us in times of both joy and sorrow. We hold in our hearts this morning all who are facing any hardship or difficulty, those who are grieving or facing illness or disability in their friends, themselves, or their loved ones. In particular this morning, we hold in our hearts and prayers all those suffering from war and violence. For them, we light this candle. Let us take a moment of silence.
As a self-funded church, UUCR relies on your generosity and the generosity of your neighbors, and also the generosity of our friends. This is to fund our daily operations and to ensure that the church and its resources are here for us and others. Now and into the future, pledges support our worship, our music programs, our religious education program, programs for members and friends, community outreach, and connections to Unitarian Universalism. We now invite you to support the work of UU Reston by making your donation to the collection plate if you're here in the sanctuary or at the link on the slide in the chat box. Thank you for your generosity and support, and the support that you give our beloved spiritual community.
Softly falling snow.
Thank you, Leanne. I just got one of those memories on Facebook from about 8 years ago. It is a picture of my Christmas tree at the time, and I had written, "Light snow falling, tree decorated, pot of chicken soup on the stove." I am one of those people who embraces winter. I like cold weather. I can't wait for the early darkness so I could start lighting candles. I remember one time I lit our living room entirely by candlelight and spent the evening reading. It is a cozy time of the year when hot soups and hot milky drinks are the order of the day. When we lived in California, when it could be 80 degrees on Christmas, I still lit a fire, lit the house with candlelight, and made thick soups. It wasn't quite the same, I grant you, but there was creeping darkness. There are still changes in light seasonally in California. But it was still this instinct that the darkness gave me to hunker down. I am fully aware this is not the case for many people who prefer the long, hot days of summer, for whom the long, cold days of winter are merely a chore to get through. Recently, I have heard the word winter used as a verb, in the sense, we need to learn to winter better. But what does it mean to winter better? It means perhaps to be with what is rather than what we hope. Wintering is a frame of mind. When we realize that all that we have is what is, cold, dark weather, how do we learn to live with it? Not just tolerate it, but learn to find ways to be with it in joy and wonder. In our Time for All Ages story this morning, we heard how a small group of people navigated dark times, both figuratively and actually, in small acts of defiance to the darkness that enabled them to find joy within their small community and forge long-lasting community bonds. In her book, Wintering, writer Catherine May writes, "Unlike humans, plants and animals do not fight the winter. They don't carry on living the same lives they do in the summer. They prepare, they adapt, they perform extraordinary acts of metamorphosis to get them through. Winter is a time for withdrawing, maximizing scant resources, carrying out acts of brutal efficiency, and vanishing from sight. But that's where the transformation happens. Once we stop wishing it were summer, winter can be a glorious season in which the world takes on a sparse beauty and even the pavements sparkle. Those who live in the coldest, darkest places in the world, in the extreme northern climes, have figured out ways to thrive and find joy. Researchers have found lower instances of seasonal affective disorder in some places where it is coldest and darkest, places that experience what is called the polar night, when the sun never rises, even during the day. In her research into winter happiness, Carrie Leibowitz traveled and lived in the coldest, darkest places on Earth. And yet she found places where winter was not just celebrated, but embraced. In the small city of Tromsø, Norway, she noticed how they prepared for and embraced the winter. In her book, How to Winter, she writes, "The environment and culture of Tromsø facilitated an appreciation and enjoyment of winter. The city had infrastructure to keep the roads clear of snow and restaurants warm, even in its blusteriest. Every restaurant and coffee shop had soft lighting and open flame candles. And cafes often had blankets and heating lamps so that people could still enjoy their coffee outside year-round." There is this Danish word called hygge, that's Hygge. It's hard to define, as there is no equivalent English word that takes on its full meaning. Hygge is a verb, a noun, and an adjective. While coziness may be the closest word in English, it doesn't convey the full meaning. There are foods, clothing, and decor associated with hygge. But maybe the best definition is a feeling of well-being, writes Micah Wiking, CEO of the Happiness Research Institute in Copenhagen. Hygge is about savoring the moment and the simple pleasures of good food and good company. Savoring is about gratitude. Hygge is about the now, how to enjoy the moment and make the best of it. It is about gratitude, focusing on the moment and appreciating the life that you lead and what you do have. And hygge is associated with the cold and the dark weather. I have always been a believer in the possibility that humans are meant to hibernate in the winter. Not like bears, maybe, who take the whole winter off, but more like frogs who go into a torpor, that state of physical and mental inactivity, a period of slowing down. Humans, I believe, are meant to do that also, maybe not to the extent of bears and frogs, but to have some time for slowing, settling, reflecting, resting. Leibowitz writes in How to Winter, many of our problems with winter are actually problems with a society and setup that don't allow for seasonal adaptation. And so much winter suffering is manufactured by expectations that are divorced from the rhythms of nature. I believe that the Scandinavian countries are more well-equipped for winter because they actually have practices and policies like generous legislated time off that enable leisure and infrastructure that allow for adaptations in winter. In the United States, it is often only the most privileged who have the option of slowing down during what is the busiest season of the year for many essential workers in retail and package delivery. What if they were just allowed the first 2 weeks of January off with pay and benefits? We live in a country where slowing down, letting your spare time expand, getting enough sleep, resting are radical acts. But they shouldn't be radical acts because they are essential for our well-being. That is why winter is so hard. We do not allow ourselves as a culture the ability to winter. I remember 30 years ago when I worked for a large pharmaceutical company, the week before Christmas and the week between Christmas and New Year's, almost no work got done. There were lab holiday parties and departmental holiday parties and company-wide holiday parties. Without knowing they were doing it, the company was wintering, allowing us leisure and time to just be with our colleagues in fun and food-filled ways. Many companies then and now completely shut down between Christmas and New Year's. Universities shut down and send their grateful students home for much-needed rest. Part of wintering well is allowing time for rest, leisure, and conviviality. On Mondays, which are my day off, I often find myself in the Barnes & Noble Cafe. It's one of my happy places. Around noon, and I have noticed a group of women sitting there, gathered, and rows of tables. It took me a few times of seeing them to realize they were a knitting group. One of the ways to learn to winter well is to take up what are referred to slow crafts, knitting, embroidery, woodworking, things that by their very nature take time and focus. When my children were small, we took an outdoor survival class in the winter, spending several hours outside, and as I remember, often with heavy snow falling, learning to build outdoor shelters, to start fires, to make nourishing soups or teas from rosehip and pine needles. Now, I don't expect you to do all those things. I haven't done that in a very long time. But in order to winter well, it is good to spend some time outside, even when it's very cold. As the instructors of our survival course used to say, there's no such thing as bad weather, only inadequate clothing. It is no accident that so many festivals of light, Christmas, Hanukkah, solstice, Kwanzaa, happen this time of year. People need festivals in order to mark changing seasons and the adaptations needed to accommodate weather and light. It gives us moments to notice how the natural world is changing. Creating seasonal celebrations is our way of doing that. We cannot change the seasons, but we can learn to live with them in ways that spark warmth and joy. Allow time for quiet and reflection. Turn off the overhead lights and use smaller, dimmer lamps or candles, actual or electric. Drink hot, milky, spiced drinks. All kinds of milk is allowed, including oat, and thick, hearty soups and stews. I know winter can be hard for some people. The cold and dark are challenging, and people are negatively affected by them. This time of year can and does intensify grief, loss, and loneliness. Check on your family, friends, and neighbors. Try and help them through by listening and being present for them. As we find ourselves enveloped by the season of the longest, darkest night, may we find joy in the presence of others and the small joys we create with them. Amen, and blessed be.
Our closing hymn is number 72, Has Summer Come Now Dawning? Oh, please rise in body or spirit and join us.
Our benediction this morning is by the Reverend Sandra Fries, breathed into the world. Whoever you are, wherever you go, May you know the stillness of winter and the call to love. May you see the moon silvering the night sky, and let the dark of midnight plunge you into your truest self and fling you back out again to the world in need of who you are. May they be the familiar carols you know by heart and new melodies to set you free. May there be feasting and frolicking, kindness and wonderment. And may there be wise people to follow a star in the east, and a child to teach us how to love, and enough magic to let the imagination go wild. To let Christmas arrive with its enchantments, with its glitter, glow, and gold. To let the wants be born, break through. May the presence of the holy crowd out fear, hate, and worry, and proclaim in this moment that peace and goodwill might yet be breathed into the world. And a vow that we too can give birth to love wherever we go, whoever we are.
The chalice is now extinguished, but its light lives on in the minds and hearts and souls of each one of you. Carry that flame with you as you leave this place and share it with those you know, with those you love, and most especially with those you have yet to meet.
Thank you, Diane. And thank you all for coming, both those present and those online. May you have a slow, gentle, and joy-filled holiday season. Have a lovely afternoon.